The following content includes a discussion of a tragic real-life situation wherein a 14-year-old child took his own life. The scene is described in specific detail by the Spalding technicians who were present for the cleanup, but no images are shown. If you think you'd be sensitive to a candid discussion about suicide, viewer discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is contemplating suicide, call 800-273-8255 or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org.
Hey guys, this is Laura Spalding here, CEO of Spalding Decon, and I've got Steve Wolf here, our franchise business consultant, and Fiona Mills here, our franchise ramp-up coach. And you guys have historically asked us quite a bit, how do some of these jobs affect the technicians and everybody that is involved with cleanups that are heavy? And we just experienced the suicide of a 14-year-old kid. And both Fiona and Steve here were on the scene of that job. And we kind of wanted to just talk about it. And you guys can get a better insight of, how they felt, what they saw, how they carry that home with them. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about, I think you got the call first, right?
Yeah.
So late night call.
Got a call late at night, about 8. Cops had just arrived to the scene. Body was still there. All I was told was it was a 14-year-old with a gunshot to the head.
Okay.
Second story in the bedroom. It was very vague on what was said.
Probably on purpose.
Yeah. Yes. While I was dealing with that, we were gathering, a group to go out. Then I let everyone know what little information I was given. Went to meet at the site. The whole drive there for me is kind of like a mental prep, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know it's a gunshot, so I have an idea of what it's going to be, but it affects you differently when it's a child.
Right.
And it was fresh. So I was the first one to arrive at the scene.
Okay.
When I arrived, the body had just been removed. They told me just to go upstairs, kind of just told me where to go and let me go by myself. I stood in front
Was
of the
there a
bedroom.
lot of people there? Was the police still there?
Nope. I actually passed them on the road.
Okay.
Like, we kind of like switched out.
That's good timing.
Type
Okay.
deal. I got led into the house, just saw one person, and they told me just to go upstairs to the left. So I did. Stood in front of the door for a few seconds just to, just brace myself for it. When I opened the door, it was just pool of blood on the floor. And then, to me, it was actually one of the biggest splatters that I have seen in a specific area.
Do you know what kind of gun was used?
No. They said the guy that was there told me that it was a shotgun, but he couldn't confirm that it was a shotgun.
That's probably why there was a big splatter.
But the splatter would go with a shotgun. Walked in, and it was just a really big, heavily saturated pool on the floor and on the rug. And on the wall, it was just... It's almost like what you would think a splatter to be type thing. Like,
Right.
Up and off to the sides. All over the blinds. You could see skull fragments, chunks of brain. Just sporadic.
Yeah.
So by the time I came downstairs, spoke to them, let them know, how we were going to clean it up. Steve got there, gave him a rundown of, a heads up of what to see, what to expect, what the scope of work was.
Yeah, to add to that, so got the call that we needed a team for that late night bio. So I was the one tasked to come to the warehouse here, grab our stuff. I loaded up the box truck while it was raining. It was dark. I was by myself.
Yeah.
I expected a bio. I knew it was a suicide. I picked up another one of our techs, Mario, on the way out there, and it was raining on the way out there. So we're going slow. This place was in a very isolated area in the
Right.
woods. Took us a while to get back there. All I was really mentally prepared for was it to be a suicide. Once we got to the scene, I could feel that there was a lot of tension in the air. Everybody, even Fiona, wasn't her typical self when you arrived to a scene with her.
Right. It feels very heavy.
it
Is
wa-
the way I
Yes.
describe it. It's very heavy. Even
Yeah.
the air is heavy.
Yeah, it
Yes,
is.
absolutely. So we get up into the room. She's showing us what the incident is, what is our game plan, and that's actually the first time that I was told it was a 14-year-old boy,
Okay.
and I lost the strength in my legs. I didn't know what to do. I lost, my face went pale,
Right.
and the reason is I have a 15-year-old son,
Right.
and
It's just too similar, right?
looking at the scene, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
I saw my son there.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, is it the house kind of full of family and friends, or what's the?
No, so there was family member was the point of contact.
Okay.
He was the only child. His parents were in the downstairs room. They pretty much stayed out of sight.
Yeah.
They wanted to stay in the home while we were.
And they were home when the shooting happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess everything seemed normal prior. Had dinner, was hanging out. He went upstairs, he bathed, did his little nightly routine.
Yeah.
They said he would listen to music in his AirPods, and then they heard it. And they went upstairs and they found him.
So we never really know what the why is, right? We kind of most of the times we don't ever really know the whys. You know, very very few people ever let us know that. So, you know, what were you thinking the whole time when you're cleaning this up? Like, is it a silent cleanup? Like, are you
For-
guys talking? What are you doing?
For me, the biggest thing was, as a father, looking for clues.
Oh, okay. Looking for clues of what might have triggered
what
him.
what have caused it?
Okay.
What am I not paying attention to?
Right, for your kid, right? Because you don't want to go through that with your kid. And the truth is that these kids are under a lot of pressure. And it's, you know, I'm in my 40s. We didn't have social media. I cannot imagine being a 14-year-old kid right now dealing with social media and dealing with the pressures of everything else. You know, when you got bullied in my day, you got bullied at school and then you went home. Now it follows you. You can't escape it anywhere you go.
get cyberbullied.
Right.
Now.
Right. And
You know, it's
you know,
Constant
part of me-
reminders of it.
well, part of me wonders, like, did that have any play in it? And my mind just runs like, what could it have been, right? And I don't know. Do you think that, like, what could have caused a 14-year-old boy to say it's no longer worth it?
my mind. When we come to these scenes, my mind is constantly just trying to figure out why, right?
Right.
Like what led to this outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go into his room and you look around, and he's got, you know, like trophies. He's got like a balloon, some cards.
A
recent
typical
birth-
kid's
you
bedroom.
know.
Yeah.
And like you see, he has everything.
Right.
You know, but it's like there's something deeper, you
Right.
know, going on.
It's
They said-
everything on the surface, but that's not everything.
No.
Yeah.
And they said like he didn't leave a note or anything. Like they're left wondering as well.
You know,
You know,
that
like-
was one of the things, again, that was hard for me. As she said, he had sports trophies, so he was participating in group activities. He looked
Right.
he had a computer in his room, and,
Right.
and it looked like he had a decent setup. You know, he had a lot of other stuff. It looks like he was into like the music. She said we found the AirPods on the floor and stuff like
Right.
that.
So you're
and
thinking this is not a withdrawn kid.
no, it
This
looks
is a kid that's very much involved in other stuff.
Yeah, especially because when you make the assumption of something like this, you're thinking this kid is isolated, he doesn't want to be around anybody.
Right.
But with the sports trophies and stuff like that, and they were team sports, you're like, he's around people, so you would assume he has friends. He's making friends. He's out and he's being healthy, active with everybody around him. So what is making him take this step? And
Well, and that's one thing that goes through my head when I see these is were there signs that people missed or were there signs that people saw and they just really didn't know what to do?
yeah.
I always feel that way and I always think like, am I paying attention enough to everyone, around me, or do people not show signs like you would think they would? Like, did the parents, you think, have any sign that this was a potential issue? Depression or a withdrawal, a breakup, I don't know what you do when you're 14, but there's a lot of things, but like he was saying, usually you would think, if the kid's withdrawn, there's no friends, there's no activities, but this wasn't the case.
No. I mean, you can tell, like, he hunted, right? There was actually quite a few guns in his room. More than you would expect for a child
small
to have.
caliber rifles, handguns,
Right.
stuff like that. He had a mounted deer head on his wall.
Right. So this family participated in sport hunting, and this was probably a part of their family.
Absolutely.
So this wasn't unusual for him to have a gun or know how to use it.
Like, that was the norm for him.
Right.
Yeah. But looking around, it was probably one of the most quiet biohazard cleanups I've been on. And I'm sure all our minds were probably going the same way. It's just heavy. It stays heavy on you when the drive home, to me, is like the worst part. That's where you're just kind of
Processing everything. Yeah.
Processing it, cataloging it.
And it was like 3:30 in the morning, driving home with that thought.
But the thing is, you can't unsee that.
No.
You'll never be able to unsee it.
So I actually didn't sleep. Not until about 6 o'clock in the morning. I finally fell asleep and then woke up within like a couple hours.
And you couldn't sleep at all, right?
No, every time I closed my eyes, I saw the scene.
Right.
And
And then you saw the correlation of your son.
And the tricks that your mind plays on you.
Right.
I saw my son in the scene.
Right.
That was the problem.
Right.
And I was afraid to close my eyes.
Right.
And I came in the next day to work to try to push through it, and I got myself to the point I was so exhausted that my body wouldn't let me move forward without going to sleep.
Okay.
You and I had chatted the following day at 7 p.m. and I was still up. I had gotten here the day before at 6:30.
Right.
Went home. I was home for an hour before I volunteered to go to this job, and so 24 hours with no sleep, and
now,
even
let me
longer.
ask you, you've been on suicides of adults. Did it impact you differently than this particular 14-year-old?
Absolutely.
It did. You felt differently. You had the different visualization, everything.
Yes. So I don't know what it is, but I was never connected to as much to any of the adults, even though I've been in some of these biohomes and I've seen hobbies that are related.
Right.
Like music. I saw one that had rock posters that were signed and I loved all the bands that were there. I saw sports equipment that I loved, stuff like that. But to go into a kid and just like, it connected me so much because it was my own kids that brought me to connect with that. So
what about you? Do you feel differently when you do suicides of children versus adults?
All suicides affect me.
Okay.
But with it, like, they really affect me. But with it being a child, it was like that much worse. So like last night, so 24 hours, right? I was like so tired, I couldn't sleep. And then when I finally was like starting to drift, when I closed my eyes, I actually like saw, as though it was like a photo, the floor off the bio.
Okay.
Like as soon as I closed my eyes, like I saw it, and I was like, well, I'm not sleeping now. It's so even 24 hours later, it's still in my mind.
Now, do you know what this child looked like?
No.
Okay, so even the fact that you don't even have a face to what you cleaned up, it does that change anything, or would it have been worse had you seen a face?
I feel like, to me, I think it would actually be the same for me. Suicides, they hit hard for me. I've had someone close to me commit suicide, so it's...
Is that why you think it hit you hard? or do you just think you have a different approach to it?
I think it's just I put my heart into everything.
Okay.
Right. So when I go to clean a scene, I'm looking at it. What if that was my family member? Right. Like it's almost
So
like
you
I
always put your family in the situation, like you're empathetic about it, and that you
yes
want to put yourself in the position.
yes like I
How
try
would you
to
handle it?
yeah.
Do you do that every time or just on suicides?
No, I do that with all bios.
You do?
Actually,
Okay.
I really emphasize with them. Um, I try to do right by them, right, because that's their loved one. So I have to treat that as though that's my loved one as well.
Right.
You know, the extent I would go for a family member should be the exact same extent
Of course.
I should go
and
for
that's
them.
one of our core values is empathy, of
Yes.
course. And if you can't empathize with these people's situation, then this probably isn't the line of work for you.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a job. It's not a spilled milk. You know,
Yeah.
there's actually a human component on the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to just a normal kind of unattended death, what goes through your mind that might be different than the suicide? Is it more just elderly person
So
was
with
not found?
unattended deaths, typically we find that they are elderly. Those impact me less than suicides because I feel that that person has fulfilled their life. They lived a
Right.
long-lasting life, and this was just a natural course. Suicides to me are unnatural, and for them to take their own life, then something told them that living was worse than dying,
Mm-hmm.
and that it hurts no matter if you know the person or not.
Agreed.
Is why who wasn't able to talk to this person and say your life is valuable to me,
Mm-hmm.
not just you. I need you to be here for me. And I think that sometimes that's what they may be missing is just someone telling them you might not feel value in yourself, but let me tell you there is value in yourself, and your value is I need you here for me and for you, and that you can impact the world if you stay here with us.
So people typically have pretty strong opinions about suicide. I would like for us to kind of share how we feel, what we think of it, if you don't mind sharing that. Like, and obviously everyone's approach and sentiment about it either comes from, you know, what happened growing up or, you know, what you've experienced in your life. We are in an uncanny position to where this is part of our daily lives. Like we clean up quite a few suicides, whether it's a child or an adult. We do a lot. So, what is your personal opinion on it? How do you look at it? Because I know a lot of people have strong opinions. A lot of people say it's selfish. How do you feel about it?
Suicides, it is a touchy subject. To me, suicides, obviously, the person who commits suicide is struggling, right? The dealing with stuff that people don't even know about. Even if they share something with you, it is so much deeper for them than what they share. The pain that they may be feeling, I feel when they do take their life, I actually like, to me, that pain goes on to their family. Like, as whatever they're feeling, like that family now feels the pain, right, that they were going through. So it's like it may take the pain away from them because they're not here anymore, but then you have everyone else feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that I don't think anyone will truly understand. What gets someone to the point of actually going through and doing that?
Not unless you've been
You
there,
know,
right? You can't possibly know
Yeah,
what leads to that desperation.
yeah,
What's your opinion on it?
So I'm kind of split on it, and I take it as a case by case basis. The reason why is we've talked about in talking Decon where murderers take their life after they're convicted and stuff like that. To me, you did us a favor.
Yeah, good riddance. Yeah.
But in situations like this where I think that they feel desperate and it just they needed someone to talk to and they didn't know how to vent. And a lot of times that's the issue is they just don't know how to express it, don't know how to put those emotions into words to somebody properly. And I mean, honestly, that's something that I battle with. Is, sometimes there's emotions that I have that I don't know how to battle.
Oh, of course.
And, talking about my father triggers that. I don't talk to anybody about my father like that and tell them, what are the other things that I go through on a daily basis because of my
Sure.
dad and stuff like that. I don't talk about that
Right.
stuff, but I know that there are ways to vent. And what do I vent? I bury myself into playing sports or doing something like that.
Sure.
That is my release. And I think that some people just never have that realization of a way to express themselves. What doesn't mean you have to talk about it, but express yourself. That's fine. One of the things I do say about my dad is when I was younger, he liked to skydive, and he was gone a lot and did a lot of traveling and stuff like that. And my connection to him now and the way I express myself, I travel for flag football. I do something that my dad did,
Sure.
and that is my way to vent and express
Sure.
that anguish that I have that he passed.
So what you're saying is everyone copes in a different way, and that might manifest itself as traveling, or it might be a deep, deep depression that people can't get out of.
Absolutely. And so back to the question is, I definitely have a mindset on the suicides for people that just don't have a way to vent, and then those that are using it as an escape because they got caught or punished based on the criminal. So I have two different mindsets on that.
That's interesting. I have, been doing this for 16 years now, and I've seen a lot of suicides even before that. And I probably have maybe an unpopular opinion, but the way that I view it is that it is your life and it is your choice to make in everything that you do in your life. Whether you decide to go to school, whether you decide to get married, have children, whether you decide to work at shop A versus shop B. Ultimately, the demons that you live with, no one will understand but you. So if they are too heavy and you simply think that you have no way out, then I don't think that we have any right to judge that. I certainly don't. And we look at this particular case of a 14-year-old kid, and I don't have the same thoughts on a child that I do with my opinion that I just stated, because I think there is so much evolving and changing in a 14-year-old's life.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever it is that's bothering you now, in 10, 15, 20 years, you likely won't even remember it.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that, I barely remember people's names that I went to high school with. I don't remember. They were very insignificant, and no matter what the battle was at that point. But when you're an adult and maybe you struggle with mental health stuff and it's just not getting better, when people say, "Oh my God, that's selfish," I don't think that's selfish. We can't possibly know what it's like to be in that person's shoes, and I just think it's really important that we don't pass judgment on it. I don't know if you guys have ever had conversations with your friends or family about stuff like this, but if I ever had a terminal illness, I would probably finish it myself than live for a year or two suffering and being a burden, to my family. So there's certain situations to where, it would warrant me to do that. That's the choice that I would make. In the same situation, you might make a different choice, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's just really important that we're not judging these people. Yes, people, their families and friends around them are going to be sad, but if you were that close to them, you probably know that there was a struggle.
I think one of the other things is just, especially with kids, we need to make sure that we're paying attention, we're watching
Right.
for the signs, we're explaining. One of the things that I do with my son, and I think is important with kids, is helping them understand their own emotions when they're growing up. And even myself, when I was growing up, I didn't understand my emotions, what I was going through. And without that mentorship, whether it was from my parents or from even their friends helping me guide my emotions, who knows where I would have went, whether not necessarily taking my own life, but maybe down the wrong path or
Right.
doing something wrong because, I snapped for anger, I snapped for anguish or pain or
Sure.
whatever.
Sure.
We as adults have to help these kids understand and let them know that there is an outlet and that we are here as loved ones to them to make sure that their life is as easy as possible going forward.
Yeah, and I just feel bad because maybe kids feel like they don't have a place to go or they don't have anybody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard
Yeah.
because you don't, if they don't want to tell their parents, who do they tell?
And especially if they're not used to talking about their emotions.
Yep.
If they don't have
Yeah.
that open communication, then they just feel like they have to keep it in.
Yeah.
And I mean, 14 is such like a crucial age. Like you're going through so much
So much.
Yeah.
at that age. It's almost like you're not even going to be logical with your thoughts. Because of all your hormones and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
else in play. But I think it's extremely important to have open dialogue with your children or friends, family.
Yeah.
That it is a safe place to talk, no matter what it is that you're talking about.
Right.
One of the biggest struggles that I've had with my own teenager is his fear of letting me down.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I constantly, no matter what he does, I have to let him know
Yes.
he didn't let me down.
Right.
Okay. I try not to use the word disappointed.
Right.
I'm not disappointed. You're not
Right.
letting me down. I understand what you're going through. Gets in trouble.
Right.
Hey, dad did that too. But we
Oh,
got
yeah.
we got to do better than that. What I'll just use an example. My son got caught smoking vape cigarettes. Hey, dad used to steal
Yeah.
mom's cigarettes and go sneak
Uh-huh.
off in the wood and smoke cigarettes. You didn't disappoint me.
Right.
Just, dude, I already told you. If you have a question, come to me, ask even about this stuff.
Right.
Let me know because I don't want you to go through the troubles that I did.
Mhm.
And hey, I smoked a cigarette and I got sick and didn't know that it was from the cigarette.
Mhm.
Well, let me tell you some of those things. And that my son's thing to me was, I just didn't want to let you down, Dad.
Right.
And
I think kids have a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
They really do. They have to get good grades and they have to make sure that they're not disappointing their parents, and they want to make friends and they want to be liked and they want to be athletic and successful. And it's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. So how do you debrief from something like this? Like, how do you get past this?
Honestly, for me, one of the things that is helping me move forward is talking about it.
Okay. That's great. With family or with like coworkers that saw it, or
coworkers, I sat down with my wife and talked about it.
Yeah.
I haven't had the strength to talk to my son.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell him about this situation, but
Right.
I have to talk to my son.
Sure.
That's one of the reasons I volunteered to do this. You asked me to sit down and do this, and I knew that this was part of my progress to get forward. And if
Right.
I don't, it's going to stay with me.
Mm-hmm.
So just talking it through.
Sure. What about you?
Talking about it. Actually,
Really, just talking about it with
talking about it.
people that haven't been there.
I talk about it like with people at work that's familiar with it. When I get home, I do just like I got to get out what I'm feeling, type deal. And then it's just a matter of time to just process it.
Right.
Processing it. I mean, when it comes to suicides, honestly, it takes time. It's not just like 1-2 days and I'm done. It's like I know next week I'm still gonna have it in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's just a matter of time process.
Well, the whole grief process is time in general.
Yeah.
For the parents, for anybody, friends, and for us. I hope the parents didn't see what we saw.
One of the things that's going to be burdening on me is the location of this was close to a family member's house. So I will be pretty much driving by that road a couple
All
of
the time.
times.
Yeah.
So it's going to trigger me probably every time I drive by that area.
And I don't think that's abnormal. I still have that happen to me. And it's amazing because I can drive around the city and go, I clean that up, I clean that up, I clean that. And I remember this stuff. But it's the significant ones like this that you'll never forget. It's just you have to be okay with it.
Mhm.
It's the grief never goes away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, if you need to help someone or know of someone or you yourself need help with thoughts of suicide, there's a suicide hotline right here. Give it a call. Thanks for listening.